welcome to Fox Valley Today. I'm your host, Anne Vickery. Joining me today from Senior Services out of Kendall County for right now is Barb Nadeau, an old friend of WSBY and Fox Valley Today, who's serving as their RSVP and Transportation Coordinator. A new guest, Anne Meneses, who is the Volunteer Senior Companion Program Coordinator, right?
Yes.
Good morning,
Good
both to you ladies. Thank you for coming over and joining Fox Valley today. We're glad to hear from you and always know kind of what's going on over there. Anna, you're a new guest, and you're kind of adding to the program today by telling us a little bit more about some of the services that are available to our citizens in Kane, Southern Kane, Kendall, and what other region?
Well, we cover also McHenry.
Parts of McHenry County.
Right. My program reaches out to Southern Kane and Kendall. So it's to provide socialization for seniors. Many seniors at a certain age stop driving, so they become isolated and they become homebound. And it's hard to have socialization opportunities. So my volunteers go in and socialize, whether it's just visiting in their home or taking them out to breakfast or lunch or do some shopping. I mean, the sky's the limit. As long as the senior's willing to do it, it's just a very encouraging program for them.
Well, you know, I have to tell you that that from my perspective of looking at some of the seniors who are homebound every day and their families are working or not available, and some people don't have the same extended families that some of us have with kids and cousins and sisters and in-laws and stuff around that maybe are available. I can't tell you how important I think that probably is, just to have somebody come by and visit. Tell us about some of the, let me ask you this. Tell us about some of the success stories that you've worked with.
Well, I can tell you specifically a couple of males. I met this gentleman that he was very isolated, estranged from family, has just become withdrawn. He even took about 3 months to come around and say, you know, Anna, I'd like to give it a try. He was taking at the time maybe anywhere from 10 to 12 medication. Once the volunteer got involved, they started to really bond. They found their groove. They did some erector set projects, and it's quite a success story because his medication was cut down to about 6. His family got back in the picture. They were watching their projects. They got together for Christmas. So it just really can make a huge difference to have someone to support, to lift you up, and just get you back into life.
And how often did that volunteer go visit this other gentleman?
They visit 1 hour, 1 time a week.
Okay.
He usually stayed a little bit longer. It just depended on the project that they were working on. But just that 1 hour a week can really turn someone around.
And what are some of the other things that you might suggest to a volunteer that would, and first of all, I got to ask you this, how do you match them up?
Well, I do an interview for both the senior and the volunteer. The senior I interview in their home because obviously they're isolated and homebound. And we talk about different things, a little bit about their history, how their life was. We talk about their interests, their hobbies, their preferences, and all that information I take it down on a spreadsheet and then use that to match them up with a compatible volunteer. So the volunteer's interview is very similar. I ask about their history, you know, what they have done in their life, and their preferences, their interests and hobbies. And the difference is the volunteer, well, I do also a reference check and a background check, so the senior is secure. I try to take care of both my volunteer and my senior. So if there's something specific that they should be aware of, you know, if they have a health concern, I'll let the volunteer know so that they're aware. But usually it's just the little details. Maybe they were both divorced, and that's a common ground that they can discuss, and maybe that's something that's been bothering that senior, and it just is liberating to talk to someone that's outside of that.
Outside the family,
Right.
the close friends that sometimes you can share with, that you know that things aren't always going to be shared.
Correct.
And you have to also probably interview that volunteer as to saying that, you know, we're going to base this a little bit on you holding your confidence about some of the things you hear, see, say.
They sign a confidentiality agreement. So when I interview with a volunteer, they kind of look at me and say, Anna, it seems like I'm signing away my house, because it involves a lot of paperwork, especially that confidentiality agreement, because they go into a senior's home. It's not a supervised program, so I'm not there constantly. So they have to remain confidential with their private information. The senior might even say, could you interpret this Social Security letter? I have no idea what it says. Or they may have a visual impairment and rely on the volunteer to help with some of those things.
Right.
So
That would involve very private information.
Correct. So part of the interview is also presenting different scenarios to them and seeing how they would respond. So it's somewhat of a training for them. Usually my interviews take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours because we do a lot of talking, and I do need to see a little bit of their moral character and see how they would answer to some of these scenarios.
Do you do a background check now?
I do.
You do. And how, who does your background check? Do you do it yourself? Do you go through the
No.
service, or do you have a?
There's a specific staff member up in Elgin that runs those background checks. We also do several website checks because we want to make sure, again, that our senior is safe.
Now, should that volunteer go in and would find the house in disarray, or perhaps that senior needs some real serious hygiene attention, would you expect that volunteer to come back and report to senior services and
Of
say,
course.
we need a little more of something going on here?
Of course. Part of my interview is letting them know there are eyes and ears in there.
Okay.
So even a situation that's why I do the initial home visit, so I can get a sense of the environment. And if things digress and dishes are piling up, then that's something the volunteer should report back to me. They report their time every month. So on that monthly timesheet, there's a section where it asks about any concerns. Have you noticed anything different? Is your senior, do they seem a little bit more depressed? Are they improving? And so they give me all this feedback on a monthly basis. And that way, senior services can coordinate some of the things that they need. It's as simple as if they have a leaky faucet. You know, the senior sometimes just kind of puts it to the side.
Over to the side.
Right, and it's not the senior that looks into it, but the volunteer. So I mean, there's all sorts of different unique situations. I can give you another example. Here in Sugar Grove, I have someone that has Alzheimer's, and it depends on what stage they are. But she really got used to her volunteer, and that volunteer goes with the spouse to doctor's appointments because
2 sets of ears, 2 sets of eyes.
Correct, and especially for female purposes, the spouse isn't so comfortable going to the doctor, but the volunteer has helped with that, and they were able to take care of an issue that she had, and things have improved. So I mean, there's all sorts of different unique cases.
Now, let me just ask about a certain scenario. Let's say I was a volunteer and I went into the house and I noticed that the dishes were piling up. Would it be appropriate for me to say, Mrs. Johnson, you know, I know you're, I've noticed this, and how about I wash and you dry and let's visit?
It is.
Would that be an appropriate thing, or would you just expect that volunteer just to sit with that person?
It's appropriate. It depends on the volunteer's comfort zone. But during my training, I do point out to them that they might be part of the community care program. So even though if they help with that, they should let me know. Because if they are part of the community care program, then that means they have a homemaker, which means the state pays someone to do those things. And if they're piling up, then maybe they haven't had their homemaker come by and visit. Maybe that company isn't fulfilling the needs. So that's something that we'll report to the case manager if that were an issue.
Okay. This is all very interesting to me because, you know, again, I think these are services that I look at, you know, I'm very involved in our township down in Seward. And, you know, I just don't, I sometimes think that these are some of the services that if somebody came to one of our meetings and said, do you have a senior and that you know of in your community that might be able to have a benefit of us reaching out to them in these particular areas? It doesn't cost anything for the township. It's only helping those residents of ours. So I'm going to give that some thought and maybe even talk to our supervisor about maybe you perhaps giving a presentation at one of our meetings. Now, Barb, how does this program fit in with everything you do over there?
Well, Anna and I work very closely together, and as you can see, this is an amazing program.
It
When you
is.
think about the fact that we are all so busy, we're all working, our children are working. So many of us are in a sandwich where you have families that are raising, school-age children or teenagers, maybe even college students who still need a lot of driving around, and here's mom and dad who are declining, and the stress level of those caregivers who are the sons and daughters. That's amazing responsibility to have on your shoulders, and a program like Anna's is just a phenomenal thing because it offers that little bit of security, knowing that mom and dad have somebody who can be there
Right.
and be a friend to them. So that is, just one of our volunteer opportunities. And Anna, you can have volunteers of any age, 18 and up, as long as they go through this process, and you can see the dedication involved in that. Then I have a separate organization that Senior Services is allied with. Senior Services is the sponsor for the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. So the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program is a national program called RSVP. And Senior Services oversees that locally, and that's a way to engage anyone who's age 55 and up in volunteer opportunities. So while Anna is working specifically with companionship, I have people coming to me wanting to volunteer, and they have a variety of talents. Maybe they were, an executive secretary, but now they're retired, and they miss the office, or they're a truck driver, or they're, in management of some sort, or they taught. They may know several foreign languages. They may have an ability to do educational programming. There's all sorts of different things that they could get involved in. Maybe they were part of the court system, or maybe they always wanted to be, and they never had a chance to do it before. Well, they come to us, and we sit down and we talk, and do a little bit of a personality inventory. What are your interests? What are your hopes and dreams? What would you like to try out that you've never done before? And we match them up with nonprofit agencies that are looking for help. So we have several volunteers in a variety of different ways at Senior Services, but we also partner with over 20 nonprofit agencies here in the local area that need volunteers. And it seems silly, but this agency needs volunteers, and these volunteers need jobs to do, and how do you get them together?
Yeah, and matching
So,
them up, yes.
I do a lot of networking, a lot of meeting. I go out to a lot of different nonprofit agencies, find out what they need. We constantly are reassessing what their current needs are. And then volunteers just come and they walk over and just sit down in front of me and say, hey, and stop me, whatever I'm doing, I want to talk,
Right.
and we find projects for them to do. And what I'm finding is that volunteers will grab onto maybe one, but mostly 2 or 3 different projects. And they'll try this out, but they also want to try that out. And
Right.
they'll try something else out. So one of our volunteers that Anna and I have worked very closely with has been a senior companion for 4 different individuals, and also is a transportation driver for us, and also has been helping quite a bit with fundraising and things for the agency. So this individual has found 3 different ways that they want to help.
To help.
I have another volunteer who helps in 2 different offices with Kendall County Health Department, but also comes and helps us in our office, and has become just an integral part of our Yorkville office. She's amazing. She's there, she understands what's going on, she's able to pinch hit whenever we need extra help. And again, she's a volunteer. We love her when she's there, and if she says, I can't be there,
Have something
I
else
have
going
something
on,
else
yeah.
to do, and since she started volunteering with us, she took on a part-time job, and so what we're finding is that the more people volunteer and get out in the community, they find more opportunities to do other things, and their world just expands again. A lot of times people, when they come to us, have recently retired, and their world seems to be getting smaller, and they're not happy about it, but volunteerism opens up opportunities again.
And I think when you get involved in a program such as Anna's, now Anna, let me go back and ask you this question. Let's just say I became a volunteer, and I you know, I went for an hour once a week, but then I said, you know, maybe Mrs. Johnson, I know she was going to have kind of a bad day coming Friday. Could I go again?
Yes, I mean, it's a very flexible program. It's not something that's set in stone. So if on one week you do on Monday and the next week you're available on Friday, it's just communication.
Right.
So my key factors in this program is communication and just common courtesy.
So what if I was going to go see Mrs. Johnson on Tuesday, but I knew that her sister had died and Friday was going to be a bad day for her? Would I have to call you and say I'm going back to see Mrs. Johnson again?
No, you as a volunteer would call your senior directly. I mean,
Okay. and
she
say,
may want
I'd
to
like to
talk
stop
a-
by. I know you're
Right.
having a bad day.
Right.
Okay.
So-
You know, and I, you know, it's kind of funny because when you sit down sometimes and you have some time to just sit and talk with some seniors, and occasionally I do, I'll run into somebody. And, you know, it's kind of funny that maybe they don't want to talk about themselves so much as they want to ask about you. Now, what about your daughter? I remember your daughter, or tell me about your grandchildren. It's like they want to be part of you.
Well, you know, I think sometimes in our society we pigeonhole people, we stereotype people, but you know what? Our seniors are living longer and longer and longer. And they are individuals. They're people with so much wisdom, so many stories to share, so much intelligence to share. And of course they want to know part of your life. They want to know what's going on because they want to be connected to the world. They're,
Right.
they're people. They're not, you know, seniors or the elderly. They're just as much as a part of our society as we are.
As a 4-year-old or a 14-year-old.
Right,
You're right.
And so it's just a joy to see and be part of that community.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. We have to take a little break. We're kind of running over onto our first part, but it's always so interesting to hear some of the services you perform. And I hope you folks are really finding a measure of comfort to know what's going on out there and that maybe you look for an opportunity to volunteer. We're going to be right back with Fox Valley Today with both Barb and Anna. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Thank you.
Did you see anyone's brothels? Thanks for helping us.
No problem.
He's not there? You're welcome.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Your son wants to get a cat,
I'll really take care of it.
but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Today. I'm Anne Vickery here with Barb Nadeau and Anna Meneses, both working for Senior Services and very heavily involved with their volunteer programs. Barb, you have a volunteer transportation program. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, we were talking a lot in the first half about the Senior Companion Program. This is a little bit different. This is how to get to the doctor, you know, how to get to a necessary appointment. When you think about those individuals who are at home, they're not driving, they have health issues, maybe their vision is not what it should be, or they're taking medications that would impair their use of a car. They've given up their license, but guess what? The doctor needs to see them next week. Now what do?
Right.
Their son and daughter-in-law are working full-time, raising families. They're stuck at home. How do they get where they need to be? Well, our volunteer drivers come in to the rescue, and I will say this, we are very limited in the number of volunteers that we have, and the only reason I say that, we have fantastic volunteers, but our senior population continues to grow, and so the need continues to grow. So the need is always outpacing the number of drivers. But our drivers are fantastic individuals. They've all had criminal background checks and sex offender checks, and you know, we've done all the
Driving records,
right.
everything.
They all have licenses and valid licenses and insurance. We have all of that information on file for everyone who's a volunteer driver. We also know what kind of car they're driving. And the driver, it's a volunteer position, and they tell us how far they're willing to drive. But these are people who say, you know, I have a couple, you know, extra days of the week where I'm free. You know, and a lot of them volunteer in other capacities, but they say, you know what, Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm not doing anything. You know, I'd be glad to help out. Well, we write that down, Tuesdays and Thursdays. You know, maybe Patrick's available on those days to drive. So you need a ride. And you call, you can't drive anymore, and you call and you say, I really need to get to the doctor. We look at our pool of drivers and try to compare your need with their availability and do a little match-up. The driver will come to your home and will tell you, you know, Patrick's coming. He's driving a blue sedan, and he'll be there at 10:15. Your appointment's at 10:45. He'll get you over there. And then the driver will stay and wait there in the waiting room for you until you come back. Those seniors would have to be able to get in and out of a car on their own power.
Now these
Because as I said, our volunteers are all 55 and up in my RSVP program, and our drivers don't have to be. They could be any age, any adult could be a volunteer driver, but we don't want our volunteers to have to lift or carry or transfer someone if they're in that condition. They would need extra help, like a lift
But, you know,
van.
they could maybe help someone with their purse if
Oh,
that
yeah.
person was on a walker. And these are generally volunteers that are going to volunteer outside the parameters of what CATS, our Kendall Area
Right.
Transportation buses, would go.
We collaborate with Kendall Area Transit. Senior Services actually has that information available and can help seniors sign up. And we are very interested in supporting Kendall Area Transit and the Ride in Kane program if you live in Kane County. But there are those seniors that may have a unique need. They live here in Kendall County, they have to go to Edwards and Naperville, or they have to go down to Plainfield to see a specialist, or they have to go into somewhere in DeKalb County to see a doctor.
Do they
They're
ever
outside of the area.
take them as far as Chicago for a chemo treatment? They don't.
No, we
They
don't
take them into that.
Well, no, we can't do that. We do have the ability to do limited reimbursement of their mileage, so we're always very respectful of those volunteers. We respect their time and we respect their wishes, and we're not going to take advantage of them. So we're never going to ask you to do anything that's beyond, you know, over and above. We want it to
Right.
be a comfortable situation. But you know, Anna and I were talking during the break about how a lot of times this overlaps, this program overlaps.
Right. If I have a volunteer that is just a challenge to match them up because of their schedule, it can't be on a constant basis, then that's where we talk about transportation. You know, that's kind of a touch and go. It's a one-time kind of a thing. But it also gives them the opportunity to meet new people, talk with them. Just like Barb said, they're waiting for them to come out of their doctor's appointment, so they have an opportunity to talk. You know, even the drive there, it gives them exposure.
Right.
And once
Yeah, we have one volunteer that we kind of shared, someone who's been a longtime senior companion, And I had an opportunity to talk to him, and I said, you know, you could be a senior companion for a lot of people if you're a driver. And this gentleman loves to drive. And he says, sure. And so now he has several individuals that he's been able to connect with and help and just be, he's a very calm and peaceful person, and he's just a very, you know, you feel very secure around him. So it's a great fit for our program.
Right.
And again, it's one of those opportunities where someone finds one thing that they really like to do, and then it opens the door to
another thing.
Another thing.
I don't want to miss today about talking about a couple of things you have coming up. You have your fundraiser coming up,
Yes.
and you also have your volunteer appreciation. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So our volunteer appreciation is this April 23rd. It's got a really unique theme. It's
Well, we try to do something fun. We try to have a party every year, and we're going to be celebrating the Olympics. So we're all extraordinary athletes doing extraordinary things. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. We do try to have some, you know, table favors, some entertainment, just in the camaraderie that we build, of a photo booth and some other things that we do. But we get a lot of support from the different nonprofits that utilize our volunteers. And so, and also we have people in, you know, in the viewing audience that probably want to say thank you too, people who've had a chance to utilize our volunteer services and want to say thank you to the great people that are helping them every day.
Yeah.
So we're having a luncheon for our volunteers on April 23rd, and it will be a hot lunch, and we'll just have a lot of fun that day. And
It's
we'll
a great
probably
opportunity for volunteers to network. And sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to shy away, I don't need to go. But it really opens up the experiences that they've been through, and it kind of gives them an incentive to strive for more. I know some of my volunteers are competitive, and they say, oh, well, I ranked in 20 hours this month. Okay, then next month I'm going to be 25. So
There you go. Yeah, it's good. You also have your fundraiser coming up in June, right?
yes, June 5th. It's a trivia night. This is the second annual trivia night that we've put together, and it will be at the Yorkville American Legion. It's really fun. We encourage different organizations to get their tables together. We have the champion sitting right here. She won last year, so
our table
The
won.
trivia
No
queen.
guarantees this year, but we'll try.
And who comes up with the trivia questions?
We have a professional trivia master who has the questions, who runs the whole show for us. So it's really easy. It's a great thing. You just grab a bunch of friends or come by yourself and join a team. We're really open, you know, to having more people come.
So perhaps the questions aren't going to be about Snoop Dogg or Miley Cyrus.
There'll be a good variety. And
okay.
you know,
our event is varied. I know that a lot of coworkers took their children,
Oh, they
and
took
yes.
their grandchildren. There you go. So it could be sports. It could be entertainment.
that's right.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And you had, how many people did you have come out for that? Because I heard you said it was very successful.
Oh my goodness, it was.
It must have been at least 100.
That is great.
It was something new for us last year. We've tried some more traditional gala events, and we wanted to do something fun. And so we came up with the trivia night idea, and last year's theme was kind of a 50s, 60s kind of theme. So it was just really, you know, a comfortable theme, you know, to get people started on something new and different. And we really did have a great time. The DJ, the trivia master, takes care of the entire event, and we just sit back, enjoy a nice meal, talk, have fun, and then compete a little bit with some, you know, trivia knowledge. And all the while we have a lot of silent auction items and raffles and fun things to so you can
Sounds
bring
like a great
so
great
you can
time.
bring something home as a souvenir.
I want to quickly get in. People want to contact you, Anna, about volunteering. How would they best get a hold of you?
Either on the website, they can email me, they can phone, any way. So if they go to seniorservices assoc.org, there's a link on there. or any of our offices, just call and ask for.
Or in
Meneses.
Yorkville, 630-553-5777.
Correct.
Believe me, I know this number after all these years.
And you know, one of the nicest thing about our phone is that it's answered by a real person who is going to connect you with a real person. And that's a
Okay.
great comfort for our older adults,
right.
too.
Thank you very much, Barb and Anna, for joining us. We'll look forward to hearing more about senior services down the road. Thank you very much for joining Fox Valley today. We'll see you next time.